Hey, everybody, welcome back. I am your host, Deanna Hins, and today we have such a special guest, and I am so excited to talk to Navi. I'm just busting at the seams. She has shared how she went on 1,000 first dates, if anybody is single out there or has been single and done the dating thing like I have in the past, you know what that can be like. But this allowed her to step into her worth and her purpose. And I cannot wait to share her with you. So, Navi, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Can you explain to everybody what do you do and who are you? Just introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Navi Bliss. I'm a love and confidence coach, an inspirational speaker, and an author. And it is my mission in life to help people to fall head over heels in love with themselves so that they can effortlessly attract the life and love of their dreams. And I started my work focused on relationships, and I love helping people with their relationships. But what I realized is that attraction is attraction, and it's the same thing for magnetizing your soulmate client as it is to magnetize your soulmate.
I can't wait to learn about this. This is going to be so interesting. So interesting. But before we dive into how you do that, talk to me about these 1,000 first dates. Like what what was that like for you?
It was a trip and an adventure. I'm actually writing a book right now that's coming out. It's a teaching memoir that's coming out in April, and in my book, I'm trying to decide, okay, how much do I talk about? What do I talk about? Because the stories that I have are absolutely endless. But the one thing I always have to say, like, if you're struggling in dating, this really helped me, is you're either going to have a good time or you're going to have a good story. And so if you're not having a good time and you're ending up with a good story, you're going to laugh about it later. One day you're going to be laughing about this with your family and friends. So take it in stride and just know that it can change and it gets better, and that you're going to laugh about it even if you're not laughing about it in the moment.
I think that's great advice. And yeah, I'm sitting here kind of chuckling to myself as you're talking because I've gone on a lot of dates before I was married. I was single for 18 years. And I'm going to say maybe it's probably longer than 12 years ago now. I don't even know how long it was, but my friends encouraged me to write a blog because the stories were so crazy. They were just so crazy and so funny, and we would laugh about them, right? But I always changed the name, so nobody knew who I was talking about. They just had different code names. But anyhow, so this is kind of cool that you went on all these dates and you came to this realization. I can't wait to read your book too. When when did everything shift for you that did you realize your worth from the beginning, or did something shift? I should ask you that in the
No,
process.
absolutely not. I did not. So more about my background is I actually grew up in a home with a mother that was physically and emotionally abusive. So I never had
Oh.
self-esteem to begin with. It wasn't something I had and then I lost along the way. I just never had it. And that caused me to seek love outside of myself. And that led me onto a path where I was in really toxic relationships, and I ended up into abusive relationships back to back. After I got out of the second one by the skin of my teeth, I realized this can never happen again. And it wasn't my fault what happened to me, but I wasn't a child anymore. And I was deciding what I was allowing into my life. And I had to make the change. And that sent me on a healing journey. And I really did learn to love myself at that point. And as I started to feel good in my own skin, it was unbelievable to me. And I realized that in relationship, that's what I'd been seeking the whole time. And because it's not even that my self-esteem was at a zero, it was at a negative 1,000. And then I went to that, to just really loving myself. And I knew that this is what so many people are seeking. And I became so passionate about helping other people do the same thing. Right. And then as I was in this place of really falling in love with myself, that's also when I was really going on so many dates. And even though I was
Mm.
in a place of starting to really love myself, I was still in this place where my focus was in the wrong place, right? And this is what I learned through the dating process. I learned a lot about myself through the dating process. I learned about my focus. I learned about attraction, because I mean, one correlation that I'll make right away is, in the beginning when I was dating, I was really focused on how to be attractive. Like, how am I going to
Mm.
attract these dates, these men into my life, right? But I wasn't focused. I was focused on the wrong thing. I wasn't focused on who I was attracted to. And this is the same mistake that business owners make as well, right? Because you're thinking, okay, how can I be attractive to my clients? But you're not focused on who is your soulmate client? Who is your dream client? Who are you attracted to? Because when you put out that energy, there's going to be people that fall away. And the thing is, you don't need an email list full of 10,000 people that don't open your emails or that don't buy your product. You need 5 solid people who are willing to invest a lot of money to work with you because they believe in you, right? And that happens when you get really clear on who you're looking for. And if everyone else falls away, it doesn't matter, because you're going to be left with what is right for you.
Wow. Wow, that is such a huge eye opener. And I'm listening to you and I'm like, yeah, like I remember when I was dating, and I even remember when I first started my business, I'm thinking of how could I be more attractive? How could I get somebody to like me, right? And you're right, when you do shift it, but how do you realize who you're attracted to? Like, is there how do you know what you're attracted to? Did that take work to figure out? I mean, as far as in your business?
Yeah, I mean, it takes a bit of self-analysis, but it's not really that complicated, right? Like, you have to break down your business and think of, what do you want your business to look like? And this is different for every single person, right? Do you envision a business where, you have a lot of one-on-one interaction with somebody? How many calls a day, first of all, are you willing to do that is actually building the life you want? Do you want to do 8 calls a day? Do you want to do 2 calls a day? What then do you have to make during in those calls to make that sustainable for you? Do you want to do big group programs? Do you want to do higher touch, smaller programs? All of these things are different for each person. There isn't a right or a wrong. There's only a preference for how you want to run your business. Then you start to hone it down. Okay, then who is this person that I'm seeking, right? Because the thing is, if you're trying to impress everybody or make everyone happy, if what you're trying to have is just a few really high net worth clients, then, if you have, then having a bunch of low ticket offers isn't the way to go in your business. You're not going to be a match for those people. You're not creating a business that's catering to those people either, right? So you have to get really clear on what it is that I want, what it is I want my life to look like, what am I attracted to, and then you can really start to like build the avatar of that person once you're very clear about it.
So once you do that, right? Because this sounds great in theory, but let's kind of work through, right? Because you start a business and you have this client that you think that you believe you want to work with, that you're attracted to, right? And let's just say it's a higher ticket dollar amount and things are looking great, right? You come up with this perfect website, you can give the talk track of who you work with, and then imposter syndrome kicks in and you start questioning your worth, right? Maybe you lost a deal. Maybe the phone just isn't ringing in the beginning. How do you overcome that?
Yeah. So the thing is, it's again, you have to source from within. You can't source from somebody else, right? Because
Mhm.
there are going to be people that are going to come in and out of your life that are going to say no to you, right? Because people have their own choice of what they're aligned with, right? And if you're waiting for that person to decide what your worth is, then you're going to be let down every time and you're going to shut down. But if you're deciding what your worth is, you can also release people without
Mm.
anger, without judgment, and that keeps you in that place where you're open, right? And oftentimes it's just, you just have to be open a little while longer. But what happens is people get that rejection and they contract their energy, and the next call that they were going to have was going to be that person that was ready, but because they showed up in this place where they were so dejected from what had happened before, that they're not even open to connect and receive that person that is there, right? And so it's learning how to self-source your worth, and knowing that what you're doing is because you're passionate about it, and that having faith that the right person is going to be attracted to that, and that everyone else is just falling away because they're not a right fit.
Well, I feel like you're calling me out. I feel like I am like listening and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have totally done that without realizing that I've done that in the past, right? So something doesn't go smooth. And then immediately it's like, oh, imposter syndrome is going on in my head. And I'm like, you know what, maybe this isn't right. Maybe I don't know as much as I think. Maybe, what am I even doing here at 15?
The thing in business is, like, your clients, right? They're coming to be led by you. So you can't be asking permission to lead them. Leaders just lead. They don't ask for permission to lead. They're not giving that power away. It's there. They're not forcibly dragging people with them either. They're just leading, and the people who want to come with them are going with them.
Girl, preach. Preach. I am loving everything you're saying. So you talk about that we have to self-source, like it has to come from within, and we can't put that energy or our own worth on somebody else or something that happens. But how do we self-source? Like, what are some mistakes that we make, or how do we overcome some of the things that are happening internally that's stopping us from self-sourcing those skills or that worth?
Yeah, so you have to make your self-worth a non-negotiable. And self-worth, self-love, it's a practice, right? So I feel like I'm at this place where I honestly, I wake up every single day, and I really am so happy to be in my own skin. I'm so grateful for my life. But how I maintain that is I have a self-love practice, because it doesn't mean that I don't have bad moments. It doesn't mean that I don't get rejected. It doesn't mean that things don't come my way, but I have a practice in place that brings me back to that. It centers me, right? And my life is centered around me. So that means the first thing when I wake up in the morning, I have a morning practice. And this is, I encourage every single person to have this. And I don't care how busy you are, because if you're not making yourself the center of your world, if you're not, no one else is going to do that for you. So whether it's 5 minutes or whether it's 2 hours, this is going to be personal to you, what your capacity is, what you need. There isn't a right or a wrong, but it needs to start with you. Whether it's you just take a few breaths and you stretch and you do a 1-minute meditation and you connect with yourself, whether that's how you're starting your day, or whether you're going into something complicated and deeper, and you know what you need. No one else needs to tell you what you need, but you have to start with that yourself. The last thing that you need to be doing before you go to bed is taking that time to center and connect with yourself, right? And having these practices in place. And there's a whole system that you have to do, right? One way that you do this is you don't do it alone. So when I say self-source, I don't mean that you're going to be on an island and you're going to be by yourself, because we need people that are going to pick us up, but you need to know who those people are and how you can count on them. And sometimes it takes time to build that if you don't have those right people in your life, right? So you need to create this whole system to uplift yourself.
Wow. Wow. So what are some examples of what we can do to take time? Because for a long time, I was a divorced mom of 2, and then I started my business, and in full transparency. So I keep this podcast, and all my friends, everybody knows that I'm pretty transparent. There's times my business has become me. Yes, I'm a wife, I'm a mom, my kids are adults now, right? And I have all these other titles, but my business is me. But when I take time for myself, I feel guilty. Even when I go get like my hair done, or go get my nails or a pedicure, or just something like that, or I just want to be in quiet and have my coffee alone in the morning, there's this layer of me feeling like I'm selfish, and you're just focusing on you. You should be doing something else. That time could be spent better, invested in your work, or invested with doing something with your husband. How do you overcome that? Is that common for somebody?
It is common, but you already said it, right? Your business is you. So
Yeah.
when you take care of you, you're taking care of your business. You are your brand. You are the face of your
Yeah.
brand. So if you're not invested in you and you're not taking care of you, you are not taking care of your brand, and your energy speaks first.
Mm.
And this is how you have to lead yourself before you can lead anyone else. And you have to lead yourself in this loving place. And what I do in my schedule is I schedule self care, and it's a non negotiable. It doesn't matter what comes up. So I have bubble baths in my calendar. I have all kinds of random things. Like, they don't have to be these crazy expensive things where, if you have kids where you have to leave the house, but it has to be things that you're doing for your self care. And it can be personal to you. There isn't a right or a wrong, but you have to be doing this. And what I recommend to everyone is that there's 4 things that you have to do every single day. You have to do something for your mental well-being every single day. You have to do something for your spiritual well-being every single day. You have to do something for your physical well-being every single day, and you have to do something for your aesthetic well-being every single day, because you are not going to feel great or confident if you are not doing those things, and they don't have to be complicated. So, it could be eating something healthy. It doesn't mean your entire day has to be healthy, but maybe eat a piece of fruit. Like, take the time to do that. That could be the thing that you
Right.
for your physical well-being, right? Even if you ate junk the rest of the day, if you eat an apple, you're going to feel better because you're going to know that you did this nurturing thing for yourself, right? It can be for your mental well-being. It could be taking 3 minutes and doing some deep breathing, right? That's what you're doing. It doesn't have to be this extensive, complicated thing. For your spiritual well-being, you can do a 1-minute meditation, right? You can go for a walk in nature. Any simple thing. For your aesthetic well-being, it could just be that you're going to make sure that your clothes are clean and you're smelling nice, and that you showered that day. It doesn't have to be complicated, but you have to do those 4 things every single day. Because if you're in, ratty old pajamas and your hair is all greasy, it doesn't matter if no one's going to see you that day. You're not going to feel your best.
Oh my gosh, you're so right. And I think in 2020, when a lot of people started working at home, I think people realize that. I do work at my home office, and I did have an outside office, but I'm home all the time, right? And there were days in the beginning where it's like you just stayed in sweatpants and a t-shirt or whatever, right? And you didn't do anything because you're not on any Zoom calls and you're not seeing anybody. But then you don't feel like you. It, there's this there's a little lazier attitude about yourself, right? You lose a little bit of pride when you don't get up and get ready. So even just getting up, if nobody's seeing you, and getting ready, it does make a difference in the day, whether people see you or not. So I love that you shared that. But I have a question. So the 4 things that you do, and thank you for sharing that. I think those are great tips, and I am going to add them all to my calendar. I'm gonna make them as events in my calendar. So I just schedule it off, like you said, as a non-negotiable, because I love that idea. Do you put them in your calendar, or do you just every day
No,
to
so
remind yourself?
I absolutely put them in my calendar. So the bigger things I like slot into my calendar, and then the smaller things, because they've become things that I'm used to. I have 15-minute breaks those are meditation breaks, or for me to go outside for a walk, or there, even if it's just around the block, something, right? So I have those breaks that are put into my calendar, and they're non-negotiables in my life.
I love that. Now, how did you come up with those 4? Did you create that, or did you learn that from someone? Because I've never heard that before, but I think it's the best idea.
So, I mean, I follow a lot of different coaches and teachers myself, right? But it was just like, these are different things that I heard everyone talking about. But what I realized is they all have to come together. And the thing is, self-worth is, people talk about, that it needs to come from the inside, and it does, but it's built 2 ways. It's built from the inside out and from the outside in. Because if you're doing all of this inner work, but your outside doesn't reflect that, you're not going to feel confident. You have to, and if you love yourself, you're going to take care of yourself in that way.
I love that. So Navi, if somebody is working with you and they hire you as a coach, How do you work with them? What could they expect from you?
Yeah, so I offer two different options to work with me right now. So I have one-on-one coaching, and then I also have a program called Sexy Confidence. And this program is all about attraction. So this will have people that are wanting to attract relationships, spice up their current relationship by boosting their attraction and also attracting clients to them, right? Because it's really all about building confidence, because there is nothing more magnetic that when you show up in your full presence, because it's a gift that you're giving people. And I'll tell you something else that holds people back from stepping into their confidence, and that is that they fear it, right? Because they don't want
Oh,
to be egotistical, right? Especially women. But
mm.
here's the thing, there's a really big difference between confidence and arrogance. Arrogance still comes from a place where you're lacking self-worth, and so you're constantly comparing yourself to other people. And when you're comparing yourself to other people, you're trying to inflate yourself to make yourself feel better in that comparison. So an arrogant person walks into the room and they're looking at everyone else and they're comparing themselves and thinking how they're better, right? What confidence allows you to do, what a confident person does is they walk into a room and they're not even thinking about any sort of comparison. Like they're not thinking about anybody else other than the interactions that they're having with people. So when they're having a conversation with somebody, they're not thinking this person is better than me or I'm not as good as this person. They're listening to what that person is saying and they are fully engaging. And that is what makes confidence so magnetic.
I never thought about that before, but you're 100% right. There is a difference, when you are confident and you're in the room and you're having those conversations, they're intentional and the engagement is so different. I appreciate that. I love that you just shared that. So tell to me about this program again, the sexy, and I already forgot the name, but I
Confidence.
just remembered sexy.
Yeah, Sexy Confidence. It's a 6-week program, and it has recorded modules and it has live calls. And I love group programs because it get people always bring up issues that other people are having that maybe they're not ready to talk to, or people are in a different place than you are, and
Yeah.
and it just gets people to learn and open up in a different way in a group environment. So I really love group programs for that.
Yeah. I love it. This sounds really, really good. I'm gonna have to check it out and see. But if you do want to be part of the program, just check out the links. All of the links are in the show notes on the blog, wherever you're listening to this. So for Navi Bliss and Navi Bliss Coaching, I am Navi. Thank you so much for coming on. I've learned so much from you in the short amount of time you were on. So I don't think this is the end of our new friendship. I'm calling you a friend. It's not the end. We're going to stay in touch after this. But thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for everyone that listened. I know time is precious. So the fact that you stayed and took the time to listen to this, I value that and I appreciate that.
Thank you. All right, everybody. We will see you next week. Thanks for joining in.